Welcome back to another episode of Have You Heard, the social media podcast brought to you by The Social Shepherd. I'm Jack, one of the co-founders here, and I'm joined by...
Joey, Senior Paid Media Director.
And Adam, Business Director.
Lovely to have you both.
It's good to be here. It's good to be back again.
I know I'm probably more of an unusual voice at this part of it now because Zoe has been sort of taking this chair for the last 10 episodes or so, but unfortunately she's out of the office today, so I gladly took her place to be joined by you guys.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
So we've got a number of good updates happening this week in the industry, and I think there's some real key ones that I want to talk about. I'm going to go through the sort of key ones that we're going to go through, and then we'll go through them one by one after that. So this week I actually saw that Made by Mitchell is the first UK business and became the first UK business on TikTok Shop to earn over $1 million in a day. So I want to cover that one with you guys. TikTok have brought out a new campaign type, which is combining creators and digital out of home. So Joey, I really want to get your thoughts on that one from a paid media perspective. Meta have begun dominating the download charts, taking over TikTok as well. And also an interesting update from Pinterest that I will go into in more detail very, very soon. But let's start off with the TikTok shop. So Made by Mitchell is a beauty brand here in the UK. Obviously, probably not one that's like known from like a household perspective, but it's very much what I've loved to have seen recently is sort of these TikTok native brands that have been built purely off TikTok, you know, and have grown incredibly fast using the likes of TikTok Shop and, you know, slowly branching out into retail and other means as well. But yeah, there's some key stats where they did a 12-hour live stream on that day as well, which drove 833K of that 1 million revenue. Obviously a 12-hour stream is a monster. Do you reckon you could do that, Adam? Talk for that long?
On my own? Probably not.
So, no, luckily for Mitchell, he wasn't on his own, to be fair. So they had, they had several creators throughout the day that joined whilst doing product launches throughout the day as well. So they had, you know, lifestyle influencers, makeup influencers coming on, hosting their own 2-hour long sessions whilst doing product launches to keep it live. And they actually had 600,000 live viewers throughout that day.
It's pretty good going that because, I mean, I've always been a watcher of YouTube, and they do quite a lot of like charity streams that get uploaded onto YouTube, on Twitch, certainly in the gaming community as well. But actually trying to keep people engaged for that period of time must be really difficult.
Unfortunately, I don't have the concurrent live viewers, but yeah, total 600K live viewers, which is incredible. They've got, as a channel themselves, about 900K followers. So it really shows how much you can, if you are live for that long, capture of your audience throughout that day, because people, you know, are very much daily active users when it comes to the likes of TikTok. So when they are live for that long, you're kind of capturing your entire audience, or near enough, most of them.
It's probably, I suppose there's a lot in the planning of that though, right? Like, because if you're introducing new creators, new launches throughout the day, there's always a reason to come back. So there's so much intent and like behavioral stuff going on there, which is, like you say, if you just set out to do a live for 12 hours, you just sort of, it's going to be really difficult of just, you know, if they were just doing tutorials or whatever, after a while, you would never, but I think because I've not, obviously I didn't watch it, I've not seen it, but obviously heard a lot about it. But like, you've got creators that are a pull, if they're, depending on who they are, like bringing people in. You've got new product launches, so fans of the brand, even if they, I don't like the scheduling of that, of like, you know, every hour we're going to drop something new. So even if you've got that spike and then people drop, they're going to come back. So there's that sense of urgency that you're building in from that behavioral stuff, which is, I want to be first to buy products. Like, I've seen it, I'm going to buy it. And presumably, obviously, in this case, the easy route is you can just do it through TikTok. So it's
unbelievable.
It's so quick. So like, as a whole, it's kind of impressive, but also with everything that TikTok offers and the way that the world is going, it's like a no-brainer, right? Like, it feels stupid that nobody else has done it in a way. When
have any other brands done any like massive long streams?
There definitely has been. I think obviously like long live streams do happen, but I think yeah, a lot of US brands have hit these types of numbers before. It was kind of just like a
UK
shouting out that sort of UK first business that's reached that. But I'm sure there's many more to come.
Yeah.
And I think what I really love about TikTok Shop, it's given, you know, these micro brands the opportunity to grow that quick. You know, how old is that brand? Probably max 2-3 years old.
Yeah.
And it's doing $1 million in a day from basically a live stream near enough. So yeah, I think the opportunity has been unbelievable, which is why, you know, some of these big brands also have taken quite long to actually get on there. Their processes aren't allowing them to get onto the likes of TikTok Shop, allowing these small creators and brands and micro brands to really sort of flourish, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's great that obviously the massive impact that it had on the 12 hours that it was live, but I can imagine in terms of funnel filling and audience generation and all of that kind of piece and the longevity of kind of the audiences that they're bringing forward into the business post that session is going to be massive as well. And they'll be reaping the rewards from that for 100%. A very long time.
It'll be interesting to see the sort of growth numbers in terms of, followership. And also there's no better marketing than product in hand, really. So if there's acquired new customers who are out that, which no doubt they would have done, those people are going to, if they know, like, and trust that brand and product that they've then received, it's easier to get someone to repeat purchase.
Absolutely.
In the future.
It's also interesting because one of the last ones I did of this, we were talking about length of content and Instagram, and that's saying that 15 seconds or whatever, 90 seconds is optimum or whatever. And we were discussing attention spans and all that kind of stuff. And again, like, I'm not sure how long people are the dwell time of an individual person. But to be able to go for 12 hours with that
Unreal
also
energy.
like breaks that model of like when you get stuff right and you just create something which hits. You know, we were talking about it in the office the other day. There's some work that we're doing with our clients where potentially we're going to do a grab content around a cow for the day. It's very exciting. But we were like, that's potentially 12 hours of footage. And we were like, well, it's a waste just to turn it into a 90-second video. And we were talking about this is a few years ago now, puddle watch, which was a big thing in Manchester at the time. And there was just this big puddle and this guy put his phone out the window and it was a live stream that went on for like 2 weeks. And people just kept coming in and watching people try and get over this puddle. And it's just ridiculous. But you think if you get the right balance, people will dip in and dip out.
Yeah.
No pun intended, but like of it and tune in. So, like I said at the beginning, all the stuff that they've done, it just seems a bit silly that it's amazing, but also everything is kind of there for you to do it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
the fact that more people haven't,
but
I think more people will probably try and do it.
Yeah.
I think now they've seen the success of one brand doing it, I think there's the scope of other brands kind of joining the party is definitely going to be there.
Definitely. So also on the topic of TikTok, there's this new thing that they've released or announced very recently, which is combining two aspects of what they already offer. So we've got branded missions, which is where brands can collaborate with creators and creators can participate in a particular campaign. Combining that with out of phone, which is showing TikTok content and being able to distribute your advertising through TikTok into digital out of home, such as billboards, ad banners and areas like that. They're now combining these two types to really create that, allow TikTok to be that true full funnel channel, which is super interesting because TikTok is a platform, everyone's glued to their phone on, but now they're sort of really pushing the capability of what you can do as an advertiser.
I think this one's really interesting because out of home is kind of typically always been quite an old school way of marketing. Before even kind of digital out of home kind of came into the fray, it was very much in the sense that you would obviously do your research around the areas that you wanted to put all of your content out there, but obviously there's always a massive risk and a lot of wastage that can come from eyeballs on content and all of that kind of stuff. Obviously digital out of home has kind of elevated that slightly because you can be more targeted around kind of where you're putting that. But again, the types of content that have always gone out in out of home, digital or out of home, have always been very similar. And there's nothing been, I don't think there's not really been any development in terms of what what we expect to see and one of kind of what we do see, the types of content that we have and people that engage with on TikTok. That's not really made the crossing across to that out of home space. So I think it's a really interesting move for sure. I think it's going to make a really solid impact. I think certainly with the, with the likes of, we've seen the kind of behaviors and shopping habits of Gen Z changing and being able to kind of change the way that you can interact with them outside of home is really,
it's bringing social into the real world, as we might call it. But what I've seen a lot of conversation about on LinkedIn is when is the first time there's going to be a social first campaign that then is for TV, rather than you create a TV ad and do cut downs and then whack it on social. When are we actually going to see that transition to be a social first creative campaign that then just afterthought almost is TV and these other channels, and that's almost turning the tide with it like this.
It seems like a lot of people though, when they have stolen the social creative styling for TV, but it's still a TV led. Like you see a lot more stuff that feels like adverts and out of home sometimes, like especially digital out of home, that does feel a bit more, UGC or mobile orientated in its creative delivery. So it kind of makes sense to just start putting your ads in that space, because I think more and more people are used to that style. Yeah, because that creative narrative has definitely transitioned across quite naturally and easily. But like you say, I think it's still, your point there, TV is still leading or it's that big idea, which I don't know yet if anybody's taken it from the other way and gone, okay, what works on mobile, and then how do we do this out of home? I think the other thing that's really interesting about it as well is, many moons ago, in when I first started working in agencies, it wasn't uncommon for an agency to be holistic in its output of above the line, inclusive of print, PR, out of home, digital, and obviously social was nurturing at that point. And then over 10 years, you had these poppers of, well, we're a bit like us, we're social specialists, or we're experiential, we're all of this kind of stuff. And then actually now there's more of a lean back towards combining all of it in, or how do you connect the dots a little bit more? The interesting thing for this is you don't have to be an out of home business. We as a social agency and social specialists, can create content for out of home. And yes, there's maybe a bit of an education piece in dwell time and how they work, but the reality is we're already creating content that works in those
absolutely
very quick, fast-paced environments. That is your phone. To, if you think of being in London, going on the tube, you're surrounded by them, but it's quick information all the way down. So it'll be interesting to see how much more starts to build back into, and to your point, how long it takes for social to be driving TV or stream, whatever it is, outside of.
The only challenge I can see with this is on the audio, because unless these billboards are going to start blasting out audio as well, that is the only challenge I see, where TikTok, you listen and view those videos with audio always on. So that's going to be interesting to see how the creative shifts with that, and you'll have to brief those creators in a specific way that also works on TikTok, but on out of home. But I think it's another mark to say that creator first strategy, when you're thinking about your creative, is sort of the way to go. But time will tell about how performances, and hopefully Joey will get the chance to test some of this bit soon.
Absolutely.
Right, on to Meta and Reels. So they are testing automated creative variations for Reels. So what this will look like is when you post organically, Facebook will A/B test automatically. I assume that will be a toggle if you want it on and off, because you don't want them to force this on you. But they'll be testing versions of your reel with various captions and covers, and then it will distribute the top performing organic piece of content based on that cover, based on that copy, and then distribute that further, and then start not serving the ones that don't perform. My sort of thoughts on this is it makes a lot of sense, because ultimately platforms want to keep users on there for as long as possible. So that if they can deliver a piece of content that outperforms what that creator or brand has put up there, it gives them more of an opportunity to serve more ads ultimately.
Yeah, completely. I think it is a really interesting move, because from the ad side of things, they've been doing this for a while now, where you've got the option to toggle on and off kind of any, they call it Advantage Plus kind of capabilities, which is AI driven, machine learning driven kind of enhancements to your ads, basically, that will dynamically chop and change around the way that they're formatted, where the copy sits, all of that kind of stuff. So I think the fact that they've, I guess, taken all of the learnings that they've had from everything they've run from a paid standpoint, obviously overlaying that into the model of the organic side of things. And I think, we've, from the testing that we've done on it, it's you do see incremental improvements in metrics. So it's definitely going to have a positive impact on, the way that kind of organic's being delivered, but also the results that we're going to be getting off the back end of that as well.
Yeah. And ultimately, these platforms, especially Meta, with the volume of data points it has on every individual, every brand, bits of creative, is so powerful. Realistically, the recommendations or A/B tests that it's going to run, whether that being in cover photo, text, and copy, it's likely that they know the type of copy structure that's going to engage users and drive an action that you're wanting it to do. So, what are you thinking, Adam, over there?
How human is it?
It's
What, in terms of copy, or?
Well, I mean,
yeah, well, obviously it's not a human. Like,
no, but I mean, I think obviously we're getting more into, on the paid side of things, that fully AI generated kind of assets now, which are actually fully generating the creative and the copy as well, which I think still have got a bit of work to do, because they don't necessarily hit tone of voice.
well, that was going to be my thing.
You have to feed it.
You have to feed it with the right information, and I think there's bits that do work, because it's literally just like changing the format, in the sense that instead of one of your headlines appearing at the bottom, it will appear in the main head, like bulk text at the top, and it just changes the formatting round in that sense. And there's little overlays like product tag overlays and all of that kind of stuff that it does at the moment as well, which I think is similar to the way that it's going to build these from an organic perspective as well. So I think feed it the right information, and it's going to be able to have the right tools to be able to kind of optimize. And it is just coming back down to the fact of lowering the barriers of entry, really, to create the most optimal content that you can push out, so that it's just easier for brands to go in. So the more brands and entry points that you've got for people to be posting stuff on the content, and then again it comes back to keeping people on the platform. All links back to that again.
Revenue,
but I mean, I suppose that's the from sort of perspective of consumer, what I'm creating for a brand or whatever, it's good for platform if they've got all these tools. But if it could completely take away the human or purpose,
I completely agree.
Whatever the content. Like, so if we're building out, obviously the more information you give it, it's going to learn all that kind of stuff. But still, at the same time, like, there's so much work and time that goes into teams creating. Not even from an agency perspective, really solid brands that spend time curating and crafting. This is what we represent. This is what we stand for. And when it's delivered well, that trickles through the message, the tone, the look and feel. And then all of a sudden, you're just giving a platform the ability to go, don't worry about that. Like, why don't you try? And it sort of could, it might perform better, but it might completely take away what you've built. And that's and there's two sides to that. One is, well, what you've created is not hitting with your consumer, or it is actually it's you're trying too hard to get a consumer response, and therefore leaving what we've done at the door. And I might be overthinking it, but there is a part of me that is like, yes, automation is great to an extent, but if you could toggle how much, like maybe try a couple, or like you were saying, maybe try nuances in the overlays, or these two, point of views, text or whatever it is on there, but don't start tweaking my copy and talking like, a different brand.
Yeah, personally, coming from my position, I'm actually quite happy that it lowers the entry point for brands, because we get a lot of leads coming from all different sizes of brands, small, big, medium. And if it can allow those small brands to get towards the medium, talking from like an agency sort of business owner, if it can lift them to that sort of medium size using these tools and efficiencies, it gives them their power to then come to someone like us and really take it to the sort of next level.
Yeah.
Whereas at the moment, if a small brand comes to us, it doesn't make sense for them to work with us, because yes, we'll be able to deliver great value, but they might not have that budget at the moment. And actually they're better off using these tools like this to get them going and get that traction and a market fit to then start working with us and invest heavier.
There's no A/B testing functionality at all for organic posting, is there? You just have
There's
to
very little.
You just have to post and then post again and see which one does better. Which on the grand scheme of things, when it also goes against the algorithm, because you want to post two things that are the same at the same time.
There's stuff come to YouTube now as well, like in terms of like thumbnails, headlines and stuff like that. Which is really cool.
It's an interest, but I think it just comes back to the point of the functionality is not there at the moment to A/B test, because A/B testing for organic is going against what drives the algorithm and reach and engagement. But this gives you the functionality to be able to do that.
This at this stage gives me the vibe of those ads, which is like, come to my online workshop.
Right.
And this is Tom, who makes 10 grand a year from doing nothing and do you know what I mean? Like at the moment, it's just like start a business and create 10 posts a month, and you don't have to do anything. You can do it from your AI will do it for you. Right. Like, so like the new drop shipping or whatever, it's just sort of that. We've had sort of Amazon small business owners. We've now got
AI agents,
agents.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Leaning on their Ferrari out the front of their Malibu home, going, "Hey, come and do my course."
God, no, I hope not. That's your next business. All right, then on to Pinterest. So, what they've done recently, just announced, and they've actually partnered with Avril Lavigne on this particular activity or launch of this new
Hopefully
feature.
It's not too complicated.
Oh God!
Get out!
Don't know whether to laugh or cry. So users will soon be able to turn boards that they'll create and turn them into videos to share on other social platforms. So you could create a board on Pinterest, and it will collate that together and create you a video, which then you could post on your Instagram stories to ultimately share with your friends on other social platforms. I think what I've noticed and what I've read about is, Gen Z has really started ramping up their usage on Pinterest. 40% of the global sort of active users on Pinterest now fall into that Gen Z category, and they really care about sort of creative expression, self-expression. So this is sort of giving them a platform to take what they really care about elsewhere on Pinterest and then show that on TikTok, Instagram. One thought that I had though is, will social channels like TikTok and Instagram punish the reach of content that they know has become a Pinterest board? Because ultimately they're trying to, you often see this in like growth hacking, but they try and leech off other platforms to grow their own as Pinterest. I wonder if that could happen. Are they even allowed to do that? Or, we've seen stuff like when you have the TikTok, you've downloaded and saved the video from TikTok, uploaded it straight to Instagram. That's far from best practice, because it's got the TikTok logo on. You can get restricted reach as a duplicate piece of content. So I wonder if that could happen. Any thoughts on this one in terms of Pinterest?
Maybe. I mean, it's a cool feature. Don't get me wrong. And I completely get why they're doing it. And the fact that it gives them additional reach is definitely, as one of the smaller kind of search social platforms, whatever you want to call it, to give themselves additional reach, to try and get people onto platform. I think being the paid man that I am, I do wonder whether it also creates an opportunity for a new type of content as well to push from a paid. If this really kind of starts taking off and people are really kind of pushing this content out across TikTok and Instagram.
It's like a catalogue of, not a product catalogue, like a catalogue of images.
And whether you could
board,
start
like
building something that around from like an ad format to, whether it's around a product area or, we want to go for more down a brand awareness approach to, you can build that as an ad and push that out if it becomes a lot more familiar in terms of what people are looking at. So I think there's an opportunity from that standpoint for sure. Interesting point around potentially platforms, I guess, punishing reach from that perspective, just because it is stemmed from an external partner.
Yeah. Is it a bit? I don't know how it sort of works from a perspective of creating the videos, but like it sounds a bit sort of potentially like my first PowerPoint, kind of just taking images and turning them into a slideshow.
It's loosely going to look like that, I believe. Again, this is probably going to use AI. To help generate those.
Unless there's a load of templates and it's like...
Well, that's exactly what it is. There's a load of templates and you drop which pins you want where on the template, and then it will rotate based on that.
So like it's bringing viewers, whole purpose as well is not only taking users back to Pinterest, but bringing users back to complete a board on Pinterest and then browse through or shop even collected content. So, a brand could create that board on Pinterest, which obviously takes up a lot of resource and time and energy, and then ultimately helping them repurpose that for other social channels.
I mean, the principle of what they're doing is pretty good. Like, helping people, like you were saying earlier about small businesses or, whoever it is, create content, different types of content, get more people discovering, them as individuals, but then also connecting with Pinterest as well.
Yeah.
But I think my concern would be the level of what is the output from these templates, or what you're actually creating. Is the engagement going to just be really poor? And if people are so used to, content types and styles and all of a sudden, if you see something that just looks like a bunch of images thrown together in a, dodgy template, it might be a bit
naff.
Yeah. But I like that. I like what they're doing. It makes sense. The only sad bit about it is when I read this earlier, I thought that they had all got together as 3 channels and thought, we'll help you out, but evidently not.
You're lower on the growth trajectory than
Come
us.
on, guys.
Pat, we'll be here to support you then in your next steps.
No, definitely not.
This next one comes from a post you actually made in our industry updates Slack group chat that we have with the whole agency here at the Social Shepherd, and it comes back to the Euros, and you found a great piece of reactive content that Paddy Power had made, and I think I just wanted to touch on with you guys like the moments that sporting events like this has, and not just sporting events, but any moments that happen through the calendar year or time of year can give brands a real opportunity to sort of capture that and create virality and real resonance, I guess, with such a high view, something like the Euros, which has got such high viewership. Everyone's super engaged in the moment, and if they see a piece of content that relates to that and entertains them in some sort of way, the engagement rate is likely to shoot through the roof. How do you think brands should sort of tackle this in terms of that reactive piece?
So it's a really interesting one because so I think there was a clip of a podcast I saw with Grace Beverley the other day, and she was talking about how brands, agencies should do more planning of reactive moments to be prepared to be ready. So her thinking around it was, and I suppose there's 2 parts, like there's reactivity in we have no idea what's going to happen, but something pops up and you just react to it. And And then there's essentially pre-planned reactivity. We know Love Island's going to happen. We know the Euros is going to happen. We know
The debate.
the debate.
Yeah.
Yes, the debate's happening at the moment. We know all of these things are going to be going on, and so therefore, how do we prepare for potential outcomes? We know. So the content that I shared was the Euros. England had just drawn with. It was Slovakia.
Denmark.
No, the recent one. Anyway, Slovenia. And within literally 4 or 5 minutes of that, Paddy Power put a video out, and it's the two guys sat on the sofa. Obviously, game's finished, just going, "Oh, good job about the draw for the next round." And then the other guy goes, "Yeah. When's Wimbledon on?" Like, really simple, but obviously reacting. Now, if knowing how they work, they've either very much done that there and then, based on we've got options and outcomes of what's going to happen, and or they've pre-recorded it based on 3 different potential: a win, a loss, a draw, whatever it is. But the point is like that it's so important to have that level of reactivity and planning, and it's not so much anymore, I think, just about going, Love Island's happening, we'll keep an eye on it. I think it's more, you've almost got to take that step forward and be like, okay, but what could, we know that, I don't watch a lot of Love Island really, but like we know
there's a dumping going on.
Yeah, there's some dumping going on. That, for me, if you're a brand that's and it's relevant and you want to tap into that, that's, the old school, phrase of a war room of people going, well, what could happen? Who could couple up with who could, what if this happens, what if that happens, and being really prepared.
Yeah, and the power comes sometimes from being like the first person. If 5 brands have all just done it and you're next day, it's too late.
And I just it's just one of those things where I think you the way social's going and reactivity, I think you've either got to be in it, and I'd argue a massive shift in mindset towards what reactivity is, and I fully support the point that Grace Beverley was making of being prepared a lot of the time, or you can't really do it because you're always going to be late, you're going to be a bit slow. Obviously there are those moments where something does happen, you could jump on, the old Gary Barlow thing the other week, and I think it's the chimp from Umbrella Academy or whatever that the show is, there's moments like that where you can take little snippets, but I think it's just changing mindset to really having something that we can say and do, but you're really prepared for that outcome.
I love that.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a really smart way for us and how we think about content and the agency and the brands we work with. But for brands, small and big out there, really capture these moments, but align it to those moments that actually fit with your brand as well.
Yeah.
As we would do with any sort of reactive piece of content. But yeah, that is all for this week. So thanks very much for joining me. And thanks very much for listening. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, and we will be here again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.